What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Matt. Today's video is going to be all about motion profile tuning inside of SimHub for my full motion rig. Just get out of the way, none of this is sponsored. It's all paid for out of pocket. It's just my honest experience with the setup, and I'm trying to portray it and bring it to you guys. So if you haven't seen it yet, I did a previous video where I set up the full motion rig, and if you're interested in the hardware side of things, I will link that down below. I've had like a week and a half, 2 weeks driving around on this rig, and I can say I'm pretty happy with the setup. So I want to bring it to you guys, show you what I got, and show you what I did to tune it. One thing I want to say about the motion is the motion rig, what I've learned is it's more about a sweeping range of motion rather than getting thrown around by the rig. I think good textures and haptics translated to motion are more important than the raw motion itself. But I will show you that when we're in SimHub. So with that being said, I'll hop into SimHub and we'll get going. First thing I want to show you is the global motion settings right here. You'll see right here I have the global motion range set to about 50%. The reason I do this is so I have a master control over how intense the rig feels without having to go back and change every single effect or axis. Basically, I do all my main tuning with this 50% mark, and then depending on the car or sim, I can bump it up or down, make everything feel more or less aggressive. In here, you will also have global smoothing, and this, the gains, I leave at 100 all the time. So I'm sure I can tune a little further in this, but this is what works for me so far. So if a certain game feels a little too intense, I can slide this down, or if it feels a little shy on the effects, I can slide it up without actually changing anything down here. Here we have the main platform motion settings, and for tuning the graph, which I cannot bring up right now, this button here will bring up a graph and it will show you your input and your output. And your input and output are affected by your sliders here. So basically, if you want less overall input, you can slide this down, but rather than having less input, I decided to smooth it out so the effects can be really jarring and intense. So if you put this down at 0, it will literally try to rip your rig apart. It is quite insane, actually. I tried it just to see what it would do. Down here we have more input and output settings. So the input limit, this is going to depend how it responds to the input from the game. And the motion range here is exactly what it says it is. More motion, less motion in degrees. I have not changed anything in this section for the input limit and motion range. But if you want to tune it beyond that, you can. Now, if at any time you're having trouble trying to tune one specific thing, you can hit this little indicator here and it will blank out everything except what you're trying to tune, which when I was tuning this profile, I one by one went through and did each individual axis. So I could feel just that one, so I could tune it individually. And I also brought up the graph so I could see exactly what was happening. And it definitely made it a lot easier when tuning. Next we have the haptics, and I actually started with having all the haptics on and realized that some of these just don't do enough for me, especially when I started targeting each one individually. I was like, wow, that does almost nothing. And the more things you have enabled, the more things can get overloaded, and it starts not to translate the motion correctly to your rig, and sometimes you lose some of your motion. Like you'll go over rumble strips, but something will overpower it and you won't feel them. So I turned off what I felt was not necessary, especially engine vibration. It just kind of vibrates your rig, and it's not very enjoyable. So anyway, suspension, this one took a lot of tuning. I basically drove around in the grass, as dumb as that sounds, in iRacing, and left this at 100 and tuned the input and output rather than the slider. So I started with the motion output and I turned it down till I felt like it moved a appropriate amount for what suspension should, and then I changed how responsive it was over here in the input limit. And that's pretty much how I changed the haptics on everything. So this one here, I don't remember what this was set to originally, but it was really aggressive up and down. It might have been set to 4 millimeters, and I didn't change anything over here. I just played with it until I felt the heave up and down was let's call it an acceptable amount, and then I changed its intensity on the slider, because if you go any less, it didn't really give the output I wanted. So a little bit of happy medium playing around there. Gear change, I played around with a couple things actually. So in here you can do heave pulse, which will move the rig up and down when you shift, and then there's pitch pulse, which will rock it forward and backwards, which this is its default, and this I tried it, I didn't really like it. Again, these I changed. I don't think these are what they were originally, but play with them to make them work, and whatever you feel is correct for a gear shift for your own liking. These ones are definitely a to your liking type of ordeal. Coming back up here real quick, I just wanted to mention that surge to pitch and sway to roll are way more important than I thought they were. Originally I turned them off and just had pitch and roll, and you couldn't feel, and the rear traction loss to roll, you couldn't feel if you're coming into a corner and you hit the brakes, you couldn't feel your suspension load and your car kind of dip into the corner. With surge to pitch, sway to roll, and rear traction loss to roll, you really get that effect. This one's probably the most important for that. You really get that effect of pitching down into the corner and the rear of your car trying to slide. Really effective for trail braking, because when you're trail braking, you're trying to steer with your brakes, not your steering wheel, and you can really feel it with this. So that one's really important, and that's why I have this turned down to 80. It was a very acceptable happy medium between the two. So that being said, I'm going to fire up the rig, turn everything on, and show you what this actually looks like in real time. And I will open up one of these graphs, not sure which one yet, probably pitch, and I will overlay that on there too, and I will show you guys what this all looks like together. All right, here we are in the rig. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see an overlay of iRacing along with two overlays from SimHub, one for pitch and one for suspension. The suspension one is very hard to read, it's very jagged, but there's a lot going on there. The pitch one, if you look at it, the green is the input from iRacing, and the red is the output to my motion rig. And the red is the smooth line. You'll see how jagged the green is compared to the red, and that's why we have so much smoothing in here, because iRacing outputs a lot of data that is very rough. A couple things I want to point out as I drive. When you can watch the corners as I come into a turn and the rear end wants to slide a little bit. The corner will dip. If I can stay on the track. I'm trying to show you guys. And rumble strips. Rumble strips are fun. They give you a nice feel. You definitely know they're there. No questions. So this is at 50% motion, and I'm going to turn it up to 100 right now. So like I said, everything was tuned at 50%, so this is everything it's got with the smoothed out motion on this profile. And I'm going to try and hit that. See, it actually ignored that. And that's what I was talking about earlier, how the rig or SimHub will get overloaded if there is too much input, and it will just straight up ignore it. If there's certain settings that you like or you feel are necessary in your motion, you can prioritize them at different levels, and it'll try not to ignore them when the system gets overloaded. I don't have anything prioritized because I don't really feel a need for it, because I usually don't run it with this much motion. It only seems to be a problem when you have it cranked way up. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little spin out here so you can see how extreme this thing can be at 100%. And then I'm actually going to turn it back down to 50 and try and do the same thing for you guys. Just going the wrong way here, so you can see the difference. So we still get a bunch of range of motion, but it's not, it's not as much. It's a lot more reasonable. So I'll give you guys a couple more clips of this thing working and driving. It's a lot of fun, and it feels like I'm about to lose a wheel. All right, that's going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you guys have a better understanding of how I approach the motion tuning in SimHub and prioritize the smooth movement rather than the jaggedness and jarringness of the motion. It's more about being connected to your sim rig rather than being flashy. It's good, you know, you have buddies over or something and you want to turn it all the way up and it moves a lot. That's all fun. I get it. All my buddies come over and they want to crank this thing to the max. Super fun. I still do it myself. But when I actually want to drive and feel connected, I turn things back down, get a nice smooth motion. Keep in mind, there is no one-size-fits-all motion profile. You're going to have to tweak some stuff to make it work for yourself. And it also is going to depend on the setup itself and the motion from your front and back actuators, because that will change the degrees of motion it actually moves per the input. I guess that's the best way I can put it. If this helped you out or you liked it, hit the like button. Consider subscribing, please. I will see you guys next time. If there is a specific question you guys want answered, or you want to see a specific thing about this rig or monitors or any of the setup at all, just hit me up in the comments and I'll probably make a video on it. My next one is actually going to be on using this exact rig for Microsoft Flight Sim 24. So keep an eye out for that one. Catch you guys next time.